Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day, stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, the first round of redundancies at Grangemouth as the site stops processing crude oil.
The vast majority of them, I know, haven't got work lined up, so it's a very uncertain time for not just the workers, but the wider community of Grangemouth and their families.
And how Lorraine Kelly is making sure some of us change our electricity meter. We'll have sports and weather too. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to tonight's shorter version of the News at 7. It's been described as a dark moment in Scotland's industrial history by the Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes. The first round of workers made redundant at Grangemouth have left the plant for the last time. Scotland's only oil refinery stopped processing crude oil yesterday after a century of operations. The owners, Petro and EOS, say 430 jobs will go at the site. Here's what some people in Grangemouth had to say.
People feel let down. Really let down. They're frustrated. We hear about all this different money coming into the community and the benefits that Grangemouth itself provides to Scotland and the UK, yet we don't actually feel that as a normal person in normal communities and even the workers at the plants.
I mean, years and years ago, if you lived in Grangemouth, you either knew or your family knew people that worked in there, and their granddad worked in there and their cousins worked in there. So it's a wee bit sad for the people like that. It's something else that's shutting down in the Falkirk area.
Well, Ewan Gibbs is an expert on Grangemouth past and present. We spoke earlier and he describes its closure as a major event in Scottish industrial history.
All of us watching this programme today have relied on Grangemouth in some way. We've relied on it to fuel cars, planes. We've relied on the oil that's produced there that in turn produces basic everyday items made of plastic. Grangemouth is formative to Scotland and Britain's energy economy, and the end of refining there is a major decision.
Tell us what things will have looked like there this morning. How different will things actually have been?
Well, a central activity, the reason the Lider complex is there, it originates in the refinery, is not taking place. The complex workforce, the core workforce, is reduced by around 20%. 400 jobs have been lost, but hundreds more jobs, perhaps thousands more jobs, in fact, have been lost across the supply chain. Now, that won't all have happened yesterday, but in a relatively short period of time, we're seeing a significant diminishment in important economic activity.
What will happen now to the oil that was being refined there, that North Sea oil? Where will it go instead?
What will change now is that Grangemouth, rather than importing crude oil and refining it, will increasingly be importing refined products. So that's what we mean when we say the refinery is being replaced with an import terminal.
There were calls, Ewan, for it to be nationalised. Was that ever a realistic prospect, would you say? Could it still be?
The difficulty in nationalising the refinery now is that the refinery has been closed down, and that would take considerable, even more investment. But there was certainly the potential to use the refinery, and the union Unite in its Keep Grangemouth working campaign put forward the case that the refinery could have been converted into a sustainable aviation fuel plant. That opportunity has now been lost with closure. So I think there were opportunities for government to intervene, to take ownership, to shape the future direction of the operation.
King Charles has sent a personal message to fellow cancer patients, speaking of the daunting and at times frightening experience for them and their loved ones. The King said his experience of living with cancer had shown that the darkest moments of illness can be illuminated by the greatest compassion. The BBC's royal correspondent Daniela Relf is on the Isle of Mull, where the Duke and Duchess of Rothesay are visiting.
It is a restrained, carefully worded message from the King, but it is perhaps the most open that he has been publicly about his cancer experience. Now, we know that he isn't particularly comfortable talking about what he's been going through. He doesn't like this idea of comparing his experience with others. But we do know that in the early days of his diagnosis, he was really frustrated, the way it limited what he could do publicly. But like so many other people, he has now found a way of living with the disease.
Daniela Relf reporting there. Now, as the clock ticks up on your electricity meter, could time be ticking down on its expiry date? Well, thousands of households across Scotland and the wider UK are being warned a certain type of meter known as a radio teleswitch service, or RTS, is being discontinued in 2 months' time, and this could lead to higher bills or a total loss of hot water. One familiar Scot has taken to our TV screens to explain.
If your supplier contacts you about upgrading your RTS meter, it is very important that you act now.
And with that cut-off date fast approaching, I asked our news correspondent Jamie McIver to tell us more.
Well, this has been a long time coming, Laura, and basically if you have an older electricity meter or something like a storage heater, then it could very well affect you. You're maybe on a tariff that gives you cheaper overnight electricity. Now, what happens is a radio signal is broadcast along with the long-wave radio signal to control these meters, switching them from one tariff to another. But that switching signal is due to get turned off on the 30th of June. Now, it's estimated some 300,000 homes across the whole of Britain still have meters that rely on that signal, and a disproportionate number of them are likely to be in Scotland. Even just a few weeks ago, it was estimated that there were still 130,000 of those meters in Scotland, roughly half of them in northern Scotland.
Yeah, so what are the potential consequences then for customers who still have RTS meters?
Quite serious consequences, but the key thing is, first of all, not to panic. You're not going to lose your electricity supply completely, but what happens is you might lose control of, say, your heating system or your hot water. It might be stuck on or off, and you also might be stuck on the wrong tariff, so you might find your bills are costing you a lot more than they should.
So what should people do, maybe if they're watching and think they might be affected?
Well, the first thing they should do is contact their energy suppliers. As I've been saying, they've been proactively contacting people since late last year, but of course some people may have got through the net for one reason or another, or may simply not have spotted the letter. Now, once you've contacted your energy company, they should arrange to get a smart meter installed. Now, it's important to stress you don't need to have the internet at home in order for a smart meter to work. Occasionally too, a smart meter won't be an option, perhaps in a very remote location, but there are alternatives available. Now, if you've got any problems or if you need any more information, the best thing to do is to contact Home Energy Scotland.
Stay with us for a weather forecast with Christopher, but first, Sheila has the sports.
Hello there. Caledonia Gladiators women's team have one trophy in the bag, their first ever. Now they're hoping to add a second as they prepare to get their Super League playoff campaign underway this weekend. They'll take on Manchester in the quarter-finals in East Kilbride in what will be Captain Erin McGarrican's final home match before she retires. I caught up with her earlier today and asked her what it would mean to clinch the title.
It would be quite surreal, actually. I think kind of icing on the cake moment, and a wee bit like, wow, we've done this. But I think it's well within our ability and well within reason, and that's what we're striving for.
You've won so many trophies already, but where would this one rank?
Oh, it would be up there, I think, on the pinnacle. It would be a full circle moment. Just one of those, you know, you can write a book about it type moments where I've came right back to where I started and I finished it off with a championship trophy. It would be really good. Can
you take us back to what it was like when you started and you know how much everything's changed here?
Yeah, it's kind of unrecognisable. When I first started playing basketball, I'm from Cumbernauld. There was no club there was no facility. I was having to travel, you know, to Motherwell or Airdrie or through to Glasgow, and it was Lisa Palombo and Jim that created the team at my high school in St Maurice's, and we built what was then the St Maurice's Gladiators. It's now kind of changed names a few times, but came full circle and went back to Caledonia Gladiators. But yeah, we've come a long way.
I know you said you've got mixed feelings about Sunday, but whatever happens, whatever the result is on Sunday, what will it be like walking off this court for the final time?
I think it's actually going to be one of those really happy crying moments, if that makes sense. It's been amazing getting to play here in my home country on this court, and to do that for the last time. Yeah, I think it will be a wee bit of, wow, the impact of the career in the past 20 years will probably hit.
To golf now, and this year's Masters champion Rory McIlroy has confirmed he'll play the Scottish Open in East Lothian this summer, the week before he attempts to win yet another major, the Open at Portrush. Northern Ireland's McIlroy pipped home favourite Robert McIntyre to the Scottish Open title 2 years ago, before the Scot went on to win the tournament himself last year. John Higgins will have to wait another year at least to win his 5th World Snooker Championship after he lost a nail-biting quarter-final against Mark Williams at the Crucible. Williams won the first 4 frames of the morning to take a 12-8 lead, but Wishaw's Higgins fought back to 12-all and in the deciding frame just needed to pot the blue to make victory all but certain. However, he missed and Williams cleared up to set up a semi-final against Luca Bracel or Judd Trump. They're tied at 8 frames apiece. And just to let you know, the Scottish Youth Cup final's on right after us this evening. It's Kilmarnock against Dundee.
Well, stay tuned, Sheila. Thank you. It has been the hottest day of the year so far. Will it last? Here's Christopher.
Good evening. It's been the warmest day of the year so far here in Scotland, 24 degrees in Edinburgh. Through the course of this evening, some evening sunshine, but there's some cloud and a bit of rain on the way overnight tonight in the form of a weather front. There it is as we head overnight, working its way south and eastwards. Temperatures around 7 to 10 Celsius in towns and cities. So to tomorrow, and we've lost the high pressure influence that we've seen today. Low pressure towards our north and feeding in a couple of weather fronts. There they are on the chart, and a little bit cooler in terms of temperature. So through the course of the morning, cloud with some showers working their way east and southeast, those tending to fade away later on, brightening skies moving in from the north. Now temperatures in the south still up to around 19, maybe 20 degrees, but a catch a shower or two could be heavy. Further north it will be cooler, and for some significantly cooler than today. Across parts of the far north we'll see temperatures around 10 degrees lower than what we had today. More of a wind as well, quite breezy through the Northern Isles coming in from the west-northwest. As we head through tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, some clear skies, but we hold on to that cool wind direction. And really on Friday, whilst high pressure is nearby, it's a brisk and breezy day with fairly cloudy skies, 1 or 2 light showers around, a bit of brightness, temperatures around 10 to 15 Celsius north to south. High pressure sticking with us through the weekend though, so largely dry, a cooler feel and a few bright or sunny spells at times too. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you so much for joining us in tonight's News at 7. Louise Cowie will be here tomorrow. They're going to be looking at the growing number of mosquito sightings across Scotland. From all of us here, enjoy the sunshine. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.